Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Four Female Founders podcast series, where we're helping women in business thrive, not just survive. I am your host, Sarah Bundy, and today with me is Amber Spears. Amber is the co-founder of East Fifth Avenue. It's a world-class affiliate management, education, and marketing company, and the founder of Four Rooms Mastermind, which is a community for 7 to 9 figure entrepreneurs and founders who are looking for a group of already successful entrepreneurs and founders to find support and a deep connection with. Amber, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. I love that we met at Affiliate Summit, and now we get to do this together. It's delightful. I love spending more time with you.
Likewise, Amber. And actually, I chuckle. I often tell this story about how we met because I was actually getting ready for my on-stage talk at Affiliate Summit, and you were actually just wrapping up your talk. And I remember standing there listening to you as I was getting mic'd up, and I was like, "Man, this girl knows what she's talking about." Yes, and yeah, what she just said. And then
Thank you.
we had a little bit of an exchange as you were coming off stage and I was going on stage. And I think you actually stayed and listened to my talk. And
Yeah,
I saw you in the crowd being like, yes, yes, what she just said. That's right. So I think
yeah,
after that, we met up for a drink and we realized we had so much in common. We had a great bond together. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the years for sure.
totally. And I normally don't stay for the next speaker because it's an opportunity for me to talk to people off stage, and I'm usually tired from all the energy expenditure. But when I connected with you after, I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to miss her talk. And I sat there, I was like, she's a genius. I love it. It was awesome. And it's the power of, proximity, right? I think that kind of, I say, belly to belly, like in person magic that happens at events and conferences, that you can become such fast friends with that proximity over the course of, a few days, that is going to propel you so much faster than, even 100 Zoom calls with somebody.
Absolutely agree. And networking in person, eye contact, physical touch, being able to shake someone's hand, being able to give somebody a hug or pat them on the back actually goes so far, which to your point, you never get if you're over a Zoom call. Even if it takes 100 years to do it, it's still not the same connection. So I think it's great that
Totally.
we got to do that. And it's actually very fitting because you actually do events as well. And you create these amazing communities where people can get together, very successful people, 7, 8, 9 digit entrepreneurs and founders. And tell us, please, a little bit about your Four Rooms Mastermind.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. I always kind of think it's important to start with the name. Like, why is it named Four Rooms? And it's named after an Indian proverb that I stumbled upon when I was really sick. I was a relatively new entrepreneur, and I was on the road, 3 weeks out of the year, or 3 weeks out of the month, speaking on stages, working with corporate consulting clients, and I got sick to the point where I needed a hysterectomy. And my biggest dream has been to have my own children, which it's a dream that I'm not going to accomplish in this lifetime in terms of physically carrying them. And I remember going to my doctors and being like, why is this happening to me? When I had my hysterectomy, I was 28 years old. And they were like, well, your mom had a hysterectomy, your grandmother, your aunt, this is just what's meant for you. And it's just unfortunate it's happening so early. And that's when I stumbled across this Indian proverb, and it talked about the four rooms within us, which is a mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional house, and how important it is to go into every room with regularity, or these rooms start to atrophy and die. And I was like, wow, I have spent no time in my spiritual room at all. No spiritual practice after growing up as a pastor's kid, and my parents divorced. I was like, well, if this is who God has chosen as his messenger, I don't want it. And also no time in my physical practice. Like I was not exercising, I was not doing anything. I was putting garbage in my body, and that had so much to do with why I had a hysterectomy in the first place. And so it was too late for me to undo the damage I had done from my childhood and my young adulthood. And so it led to that. And so after that, I really started being really mindful of, when I feel out of balance, which room am I not going into? And I still default to the spiritual and the physical. Like, those are still the ones that I struggle to fill with the most, because I think as entrepreneurs, we're so here. We have to be. We're constantly selling the vision of our company and the drive of it. And emotionally, it's like it's our calling, right? So we're in there all the time. You have to have those active to be a successful entrepreneur. Where the other things can go by the wayside, but then I argue they're just as important. So when I decided to do Four Rooms, it used to be called Mimosa Mastermind, for those people that remember it. Bought my business partner out in 2022, and I rebranded it to Four Rooms. And so, Four Rooms Mastermind focuses on the health, wealth, scale, and relationships component for the entrepreneur that believes that, just like I do, that sacrificing yourself on the altar of success is not the answer or the solution, and that are looking for a fellowship and brotherhood and sisterhood of like-minded entrepreneurs that are still driven, but they're not driven by just the money. They're driven to have deep, beautiful relationships with their families and their loved ones. They're driven to make an impact in the world. They're driven to take care of their health, right? And holding each other accountable and seeing and holding the vision for them of their future is just really important to me. And there's a lot of masterminds you can be in that are going to be just about money. And we certainly make more money in there. Like, we all profit, right? Because that you have to, in order for it to make financial sense. But at the end of the day, that's not the only metric that's important to us. And it's been delightful to have a breath of fresh air after coming out of so many mastermind groups where it's all about the money, and to be like, I'm walking into a room where that is one important metric out of many. And we find like-minded people to spend time with, and it took 7 years to craft it to this point where it's a vibrant, thriving community, but it was worth that, that focus.
I love that you use the word vibrant and thriving community, because
Yeah.
I find that a lot of the people who focus most of their energy and attention towards money making initiatives, and they forget the other areas of what makes up a quality life,
Yeah.
quality relationships, quality health, being able to sleep well,
Mm-hmm.
being able to use your body as
Yeah.
as your vehicle to get through this life, having a clear mind, having strong relationships with people who've got your back and are value aligned, are all things that we put on the wayside to
Yeah.
make money. And
Yeah.
yet, we all know money is not always going to be the root. Well, money isn't the way to
Yeah.
happiness. It can't prove happiness, right?
No.
So, yes, it's definitely a helpful tool. Wealth is a helpful tool. It's something fun to pursue, and it definitely can add to that quality of life. But if we're ignoring all the other areas, then we ultimately end up suffering and find holes in pieces of our body and our souls or our
Yeah.
minds.
Exactly. And I think, I forget, I'm paraphrasing, but there's a proverb like a wealthy man has many dreams, but like a sick man only has one, which is their health, right? And so,
Mhm.
I just think that it's so important to me that my mastermind members actually get concierge medical doctor care with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, that we pay for their hair testing, we pay for their labs. And it's amazing because I do full intake. Another thing that's unique about Four Rooms is that we do in-depth, like, takes you 30 minutes to fill out our intake forms, because that's where I hand seat you and
Mm.
show you who you need to meet and pick your breakout sessions and customize your experience. It's pretty incredible when you look at those intake forms, a pattern that I keep seeing, which is people will rank themselves on the four rooms. Are you satisfied with your health? How satisfied? Are you satisfied with your wealth, scale, relationships? How satisfied, and why or why not? And you'll see people that are so unsatisfied with their health. And then you see the topics that they pick to learn about, and health is last on the list. And it's like,
Interesting.
that is why it is a requirement for me to bring these speakers out and to support them in that way, because I know what's coming on the other side of that. Because I got my dream, one of my biggest dreams in my life is gone. That I can't carry a child anymore. I can still have one, right? But it's not going to be the dream that I had for myself. And it's a very hard lesson to learn that I don't want people repeating. And, when it comes to relationships, I also see they're scoring so low on relationships. And yet when they're looking for things, everyone's picking scale, TikTok shop, YouTube ads, right? And it's like, how to have a better relationship with your spouse
Right.
is low on the list. And I'm like, how is this happening in terms of what you want to learn about? It's my job to bring the information that they need and they want. because like this is the most impactful. And I know what it's like to get out of touch with my best friends, with my family, to overwork to the point where my, former partner before, my girlfriend now, I remember her begging me to stay home more. And this is somebody that took their own life at the end of 2019, and I would do anything to be able to just listen and like stayed more time with her before that happened. And I can't change it, and I certainly have had to battle with regret, but like that was a huge wake-up call for me, where I was like, wow, there are going to be people that are so important to me that don't feel important because I can't make time for them, or people that, had I not been so focused on me and my clients and like my career, that I would have given any of that up to have one more hour with them. And I see that in my community. I'm watching, some people, and there's a lot of people doing really well. All of them, for the most part, doing well financially. But there are some people in the community that, we had two members that had suicidal ideations last year. One had to check themselves into a voluntary hold. We almost lost them. We had two people on the brink of divorce. One is going through with it. We had two people that lost their mother or checked their mother into long-term hospice care. And like that was such an honor to be there with them in those times, and to know that they felt comfortable enough to share that with our community, and to, let their guard down and to be supported. Like that's what gives me juice, because I didn't have that. Like, or not that I didn't have it. I'm sure I could have leaned on my community before my former partner took her own life, but like that particular thing shattered me so much that I didn't have the ability to like not have help anymore. And like that's when I started realizing I had real community and how valuable it was, and it just like doubled down on my desire to create something that was special and unique. And then seeing my members go through that the last year, and knowing that some of them are saying we wouldn't have made it without you. It's like, or this community, not even just me, the relationships that they made. And I don't think you can say that for a lot of masterminds at this level, right? And that's really important to me, for sure.
Well, they often say, or we often say as founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, it's very lonely at the top,
Yeah.
right? And being able to find a community of people who can support you through all the hardest things in life, who've got your back, who can lend an ear, who can provide resources, who can do introductions to
Yeah.
people who fill the areas of your life where you're, neglecting and weak, is so
Yeah.
important. And I
Yeah.
love that you do that. I love that you're bringing that to the world of business owners and entrepreneurship, and people who do want to pursue, you know, this thriving life, this like abundant life. And yes, it does come with wealth, but it does also come with health and spiritual fulfillment and strong
Yeah.
relationships and the ability to be a well-balanced person. So I love that you have Four Rooms Mastermind group, with Four Rooms being sort of this idea that you have of filling all of these different rooms and how they connect with each other. So thank you for sharing that. Thanks to CJ for sponsoring this episode of the Four Female Founders podcast series, and for supporting our mission to help, mentor, and elevate women in business. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about what mastermind groups actually even are. So, Amber, what is your definition of a mastermind group, and what is it that they do for people out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. Masterminds have been such a huge part of my career. It's how I've landed some of my biggest clients, like Dr. Mark Hyman, and I was just 2 days ago in Necker Island with Richard Branson at a Mavericks Mastermind. But I think at the core of it, was it Napoleon Hill that created the first mastermind? I think it was, where he took the Rockefellers and Carnegies and put these amazing people together so that they could compare notes and inspire each other with ideas, and share resources, and grow together. I think is really what it is. And for me, it's a community of like-minded people that want to grow together, and that are willing to share with each other. And it's a peer group. I think a lot of it, what I've seen in the industry has changed a lot, is um, my opinion is the mastermind really should be a peer group. And I'm seeing a lot of groups where you have kind of the experts, the drivers, maybe the multi 7, 8, 9 teaching the 6, and it's a big group, thousands of people. And like, that's not, in my definition, a true mastermind, because you do have elements of it, like-minded people who want growth, right? Teaching, topics, revealing, sharing their secrets, but you're missing the peer element. And I think that is the most important part of a mastermind, and why they tend to be at the highest level curated, because you need both a curation of the skills, the level that they're at, if they're going to be givers or takers in the group, right? And also people that have enough to teach each other, right? Because I'm going to be weak in some areas but really strong in others, right? And so not that I can teach every subject, but I'm really strong in certain areas, and so I rely on my community to make me stronger in the areas that I'm weaker, and I like to teach me. So I think that's the differentiator for me when it comes to masterminds.
And because you've actually been part of so many masterminds in your life, I'm sure you've found some that have really resonated with you, and then some, and you're probably friends with some of the people that you've met from some of those mastermind groups. Still, knowing you, you're such a good relationship person. You take such good care of people. I imagine you're so well connected with these people. But how do you find a mastermind group of peers? I mean, in your case, you're focused on entrepreneurs and founders with 7, 8, 9 figure incomes or businesses. But what about like the smaller guys out there? What about the startups? What about people in communities where they don't have access to resources?
Hmm.
What's your suggestion on how they find mastermind groups and their peers?
That's such a great question. I started a quote unquote kind of mastermind groups when I was knocking on doors, businesses' doors, selling search engine optimization for $75 a month 16 years ago. And then I stumbled upon BNI, which is a local kind of group where, you have one real estate agent, one, car mechanic, one SEO person, like one thing, and you all pass referrals back and forth to each other. I think it's like $200 for the year, right? So it's like there are ways to start. Toastmasters is another great one. I was in NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners. That's local. Chamber of Commerce. There's like so many local places that you can go. They're free. There's so many Facebook groups that you can be a part of that are free. There's so many of these groups. Just kind of look. What I would be looking at is who serves the core avatar that I serve, that I can be around just because I'm an affiliate person and a referral person. So that's how I'd start. Or like general interest, right? There's Tantrika masterminds. There's freaking Dungeons and Dragons. Like there's all kinds of things, right? And the beauty is the internet. But for me, I started, like I said, Toastmasters, NABO, BNI, kind of all that, knocked on thousands and thousands of doors, and that's given me a ton of confidence when it comes to these things. But you know, it's funny. I was on Necker and I was texting Joe Polish, who's a dear friend, and in a lot of ways someone that I look up to and wanted to be like before I ever knew him. And now we're friends. He stayed at my house in San Diego a bunch of times, and I texted him and I was like, hey, it's really cool to be here on Necker Island with Yannick Silver, who is the other guy that I looked up to when I first started my mastermind group. And to be here with him and now have a relationship with him, and a relationship with you, it's surreal, because like I just never thought that I would be here when I first started my own mastermind. And so I think for anybody listening, the fastest way for me to generate the relationships that I've had and to do the things I've done with masterminds is a two-part. One is I would go places and cities where my people that I wanted to meet were, and I would just camp out for a week. Not everyone could do that because they have kids, and I was young and it's different. But if you can, go to places like Austin or wherever the hot houses are, and just get an Airbnb and reach out to people and do a podcast or go to their office or go to dinner with them or do whatever. And that's a great way of building your own room, because I think that that's where you really start to get the velocity, is building your own room, and you own the curation and you own the vision and you like start it. And when we first launched our mastermind, it was, a room in Seasons 52 during traffic and conversion across the street from it. And we had room for 27 and we fit 55 people in there, standing room only. And it cost me and my business partner at the time way more money than we had. It was like, I remember it was like $4,000 bill. And we're like, holy shit, how are we going to pay this? We have no idea. This is way more than we were expecting. And we split it, and we ended up generating a couple $1 million from that group over the course of a year for our
Wow.
clients and for ourselves. And we're like, wow, this really works, and it's the curation and the vision and the tempo, right? Anybody hearing this, if Four Rooms sparks something within them, they're gonna be like, yeah, I want to be a part of it, right? but like you holding the vision and me finding a gap. There was a gap in the space of female leadership. There was a gap in the space of people who weren't just talking about money. There was a gap in the space of people who, were doing primarily online marketing, right? Our clients, the one thing throughout is that they primarily get customer acquisition online. We don't have a lot of retail in there. And like people that were willing to go and do experiential event design, which is far more expensive than me putting you into just a conference room. Like when you come to our events, you'll see like we probably spend, we spend between $5,000 and $6,000 per head per person that comes to our event. If you look at our, anybody near us, it's like $1,200 tops, maybe a couple $100 a day. We do that because that's important to me. Like, and people come to me like, we don't need to spend this much money. It's like, that's my decision because I want an experience, and experiences cost money, right? It costs a lot of money to do something like this, to put on a production level festival at the end, right, of our events. It takes money to do it, and it's worth it because we're creating experiences, not just stuffing you in a conference room, putting the ROI on your shoulders, only talking about money. So now your stage is full of implementation ideas you have to do, and then you're overwhelmed and you go home and you're like, that was great, but like what? Like, I think it's just the power of that vision. When you have it, everyone will have that. It's like create your own rooms, because when you do that, you become the epicenter of the referrals. You become the epicenter of who's there. You can say who's in or out, and be the carrot and the stick. And I think that's really what's helped me so much in my career.
Well, I think the way that you care for people and care about people is super palatable.
Yeah.
You are so authentic in everything that's ever come out of your mouth. And the people that you've even introduced me to, some of which actually have been guests on this podcast, are just so wholesome, honest, grounded, successful, beautiful souls. And everybody just wants to be seen and make a positive difference in the world and be themselves. There's an authenticity piece that I think kind of resonates with you in the group,
Yeah.
with Four Rooms, and to the point where even you get to hang out with Richard Branson, who you call Rich. Let's
It's
see that
crazy.
picture, by the way. You got a picture together when you guys were there, right?
I did.
But
I
I love
did.
the fact that like everywhere you go, you're pulling people together, right? Whether it's in your own mastermind group or you're joining other people's mastermind group, there you are.
Cool, right? By the
So
way,
cool.
Richard doesn't like selfies, but I got one, so don't tell him.
Don't tell him. Don't post it online.
Eh,
It'll just be in this video.
yeah, it'll just be here. But yeah, I
But
mean, I met him because Yannick spoke at my event and loved it. And he was like, you got to come check out mine. And I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to check out yours forever. Like, let's do it. But that was a 10-year relationship. That was a 10-year slow roll. I was actually someone that they interviewed 10 years ago before I started my company to take over Maverick Next, which was for entrepreneurs under the age of 30. And now I went to Necker to mentor the Maverick Next people. It was like so surreal. It really is about taking care of your relationships, and like those things come around.
yeah, and we've talked a couple times on this podcast about mentorship, around paying it forward, around taking
Yeah.
genuine care of people, around solving people's problems, better, faster, higher value than anybody else. And to your point around spending the money on your guests, on the members of your mastermind group, it's because you don't prioritize penny pinching and you're
Totally.
not prioritizing bottom line. You are genuinely prioritizing the wellness and the community that you're developing. And you had mentioned something actually, which I loved, which is, these people meet each other and they become friends, and then they find a support system for each other, hopefully for life.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing to be able to bring to the table. It's not just, hey, you meet somebody at this conference, you're going to be friends for a week. It's like you've created this place where you're bringing like-minded people who are value aligned that actually can support each other for the rest of their lives if they want to. That's
Yeah.
powerful to me. That gives me goosebumps thinking about that.
It is. I have a vivid vision. I don't know if you've built one for your company, but I did one for this company. And it's funny that you say that, because that's exactly what I've created in my mind. Is like, when I started this, I wanted to do something that I would look up from. I just dropped it in there if you want to see it. That I would be in my casket and coming back as a spirit, and I'd be looking out, and there'd be a bunch of people from my community that were there, and this is like a lifetime friendship to me, and it's in my vivid vision. And when I rebranded, I was really worried when I bought my business partner out about um, people feeling that they had to choose between mom and dad,
Mm.
right? But I knew I couldn't stay in the current way that it was. And part of that was the rebrand. And I was worried about launching a mastermind because it was called Mimosa Mastermind, but and but it was event to event. There was no like yearly continuity throughout and like structured curriculum and all the things that we have now. Um, and I basically got up at the end of 2022 and I was like, here's what we're doing. Like, does anyone want to join me? And I was up there, like, I had tears in my eyes. Like, this is why I bought him out. This is where we're going. Like, I know people love Brett, my former business partner. I love him too. He's doing something else that's really on his heart. And I actually threw a funeral for Mimosa Mastermind. I made everyone wear black, didn't tell them why. They showed up. We had a mini funeral with carnival dancers and like all this stuff, right? Because I wanted to put it to bed. And I gave everyone this vivid vision. And I didn't even know, I didn't even have deposits for a hotel. I had nothing. And I was like, if this is what I want to do with Four Rooms, who in my community wants to come? And it was crazy because there was no pitch, there was nothing. It was an invitation. And I had so many of my dear friends who have mastermind groups that looked at what I was doing. They're like, this is crazy. No one is going to buy this. You have to do the whole back of the room thing, the golden thread, the pitch throughout. And I was just like, these are my friends and they've been here with me for 5.5 years at the time. I'm not going to do that. And I just handed out the vivid vision. I was like, if this resonates with you, great. And it was crazy. We had 35 people raise their hands to join. And I was like, what? It's like an expensive mastermind group,
Yeah.
right? It's not cheap. And it's not cheap because we're paying for experiential things. I don't have a huge profit margin. It's like 10% if I'm lucky, right?
Mm.
It all goes back to developing the team, to developing these experiences. And that vivid vision is what got them across the line. And like, they're our founding members, they're a huge part of our community, and they bought into the vision of the fellowship and the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the support, the accountability, the community. And it was really powerful exercise to do it, and definitely something that I recommend people do, just because you're either in or you're out. You see that and you're like, I'm in, or I'm like, not for me, right?
Well, now you've got hundreds of members and people in your community. It's one of the most thriving mastermind groups I've come across, especially in the affiliate marketing space, in the entrepreneurial space, in information and marketing and education. Um, and it's going to continue to grow because what you're doing matters, and what you're doing makes such a complete disruptive difference. It is so unique. It is so different. It fills all of the requirements of a human to be successful and thrive. So
Thank you.
keep doing what you're doing. I think it's wonderful work. I look forward to being part of it too, and
Yes.
checking it out. Before we jump into the very last question, just because we're at time, I got to do a quick time check here.
Yeah.
What is the best way for people to contact you to learn more about your mastermind group, and just kind of build themselves into your network?
Totally. Well, thank you for asking. So I always give people my email address. It's amber@east5thavenue.com or amber@fourroomsmastermind.com. That's my actual email address. Not to say that I'm going to answer you right away, because sometimes email gets lost, but I will answer. And you can always go to fourroomsmastermind.com and check it out and just see if, the event works. You don't have to be a member to come to our big annual event. We have a lot of people that can't do the time commitment of being involved. It is a time commitment, just like it is a financial investment. And our big annual event is November 15th through the 18th. And it's a 4-day experience, 2 days of hanging out, connecting, 2 days of working, costume parties, talent shows, the whole like thing. It's an experience. It includes your hotel stay. It includes all your food, all your activities, everything. We just want to make it really easy for you to get there and enjoy. So, that's always an option. And then we have a marketing sales intensive this year. We have another M&A and like wealth building intensive. And those are first come, first serve for members, but we always have room for cool people if they just want to come check out kind of like a smaller event. We work for 2 days on your business. We rotate you into rooms. Right now we have a native expert, we've got a CRO expert, we've got a phone sales expert, and we pick who you're sitting with, and you sit down 45 minutes, these experts are just solving your biggest problem in those areas, and it's just you move along. We have a 9.4 MPS score on that one, which is insane because Chick-fil-A gets a 6. So it's great, because I think that's the other challenge of mastermind groups is there's so much information, there's such little implementation, and the action and kind of the next steps is where you get the momentum. And so having both, I think, is really important. And I'd love, anybody that comes from you, Sarah, is a win for me. And you've done the curating for me. So would be honored to have anybody in your community, and of course you, to be a part of what we're doing, because you're just you I, there's funny, just a side note, when Molly Mahoney and David Bear were some of the first people to sign up for our mastermind group this year, me and the team were in the back and we're like, we got our some of our top draft picks, they just came to us, we didn't even have to go talk to them, they just said yes. And I know that we're gonna feel the same way. Will you come in and come to our events? We're gonna feel like we got one of our top draft picks there, because the alchemy of the people are so important.
Absolutely. I appreciate the kind words, and
Yeah.
I appreciate the support and advocacy of all the things that we're working on collectively together as well.
Totally.
And to close up with the last question, can you summarize for me in 3 to 5 words or thoughts, what are the key benefits of joining a mastermind group?
Proximity is power. I think that's a big one. It's a cure for entrepreneurial loneliness, which I think when you say it's lonely at the top, it is true. And I also think the other part is, for me, the adventure, because we really focus a lot on the adventure and the design. It's designed to not shake you out of your comfort zone is kind of passe. It's designed to delight you and inspire you. And when you do it right, those combinations, it's pretty incredible, the community and the brotherhood and the sisterhood that you get from it.
I love that so much. I love that you use the word delight, because at All Inclusive Marketing, the agency that I founded, our affiliate management agency, our philosophy is to dig every day, DIGG. And DIG stands for to delight, to innovate, to grow, and to give back. And I feel like that's a lot of, and it's a lot of what you do. And it's a lot of, what you believe and what you're preaching, and, what you're bringing to the table for a lot of these guys. So keep up the amazing work, Amber. Thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your story and your expertise and your ideas. And thanks for disrupting the market and bringing something new and very authentic and very meaningful to the table for everybody out there. So we appreciate you.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Four Female Founders podcast series. If you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe, like, or comment below so we can continue to support women in business by helping them thrive, not just survive. We'll see you on the next show.